Energy Committee. Oops. Oh,
I
okay.
just-
We'll officially open the meeting at 7:36. And we're now recording, and we will go around, just quickly introduce ourselves for posterity, and then jump into the agenda. So my name's Tanya Bodell. I'm the chair of the Alternative Energy Committee, and I have been a consultant to the energy industry for almost 30 years.
Pat Gooding, Vice Chair.
Josh Staunton, part of the AEC member. I guess.
Mike Schmidt, AEC member.
Steve Weiner, AEC.
Corey Evans, select board member and liaison to AEC.
Isabel Rashid, AEC member.
Okay, awesome. Welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. We continue to have a lot going on, but it's very exciting. So we're now moving on to approval of the meeting minutes from April 21st, 2022. Hopefully you've all have had an opportunity to review those amazing minutes that Debbie provided. And when you're ready, I'll take a motion to approve, or if there are any corrections, please let us know.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
I'm gonna have
Great, thank you. Any discussion? All right, we're gonna have to take a roll call vote to approve the meeting minutes. Tanya Bodell, aye.
Pat Gooding, aye.
Steve Weiner, aye.
I would have to recuse myself, I guess. I wasn't here for the meeting last month.
Mike Schmidt abstained. I was not at the meeting.
Nope, Isabel Rashid, I wasn't there as well.
All right, we've got 3 to approve and 2 abstentions. But this is
Three abstention.
three, well, except that
You're on
Oops.
mute.
he's a liaison, but not a member.
Okay, got it.
So we've got 3 approvals and 2 abstentions. And the minutes are accepted. So we will send those for posting. We've been very good about the posting, so I want to thank everybody for that. And special thanks again to Debbie, who's not on for those amazing meeting minutes. Okay, next is the Earth Day 2022 and Ecofest 2022 recap. Pat, do you want to take the lead on this, since you played a huge role, and Steve, you also? Just give us an update on what we did, what we saw.
Yeah, so the Earth Day cleanup, I think Josh was there for a while, Debbie was there, and I was there, and Tanya. It was unfortunately not as well attended as last year. We did have some good discussions. We had an opportunity to speak with Joan Moschino for a little bit about some of the things that we're doing, and she was able to give us some feedback, so that was good. Unfortunately, I think it was just not the best day, and I think it was also corresponding with school vacation. So I think we have to put our heads together for next year and see if we can, look for a better opportunity, maybe, to make that a little bit more robust. So Ecofest, on the other hand, I think was very, very well attended. I was impressed. The people that put that on did a really good job organizing and had a good variety of things for the people to come around and look at. And we did get some traffic through our table, and I think Steve engaged some people for quite a long period of time while I was sitting there about community aggregation, and we gave out a lot of information, so that was good. So I thought it was a great opportunity, and I hope it goes forward next year.
I think maybe the Ecofest was a success because they also had the beer garden going with it. I know the attendance went way up as soon as the beer garden opened.
True.
Was it green beer?
No.
Oh, they gave out, there was one vendor that was giving out free whiskey.
But they were in plastic
Great.
cups, so we have to do better next year.
Maybe we should have AEC shot glasses.
Yeah. Recycled paper.
Good. Well, thank you, Pat, for organizing that, and Steve and Josh for your time in attending and representing the Alternative Energy Committee and sharing all of the great things that we've been doing. All right, marketing. We've got two things under marketing. One is the Community Choice Aggregation Subcommittee to talk about the marketing status of a marketing plan for the rollout of the Community Choice Aggregation. And you can also talk about the status of that. And then the second would be social media. And Josh has indicated he has some thoughts on this. This was an item that was raised at a prior meeting, and Josh was the one who raised it. And so it was on his action items to come back to us and give us some thoughts on social media and what we can do to lever social media to achieve our objectives. But let's start with community choice aggregation.
Okay, I spoke to John, the outreach, and he's so we get rolling with it. And unfortunately, DPU is still putting the brakes on things for some reason. I'm really upset about this. I tried to call Joan Moschino yesterday, but she didn't get back to me yet. But we've had discussions with her the last few weeks about it. It's really using to allow these aggregation plans to go forward. Anyway, so on the outreach, I don't have anything new. We haven't done anything lately, but you know, as soon as we can go out for bids and it's time's appropriate, there's all sorts of stuff we can do, and we have a draft plan from a long time ago, all spelled out in a spreadsheet, so we're ready to go.
Okay, and so that draft plan, what's included in that? And I would say you have been doing outreach through Ecofest.
Oh,
and-
yes. Well, we have actually. I mean, I wrote the article in On the Rocks, Life on the Rocks, and also we went to Ecofest and Earth Day. So yes, we've been doing outreach already. Even though we can't provide people with details about the program since we haven't gotten any bids yet, haven't gone out to bid yet.
Mhm.
But yes, what's on the spreadsheet? Well, gee, what are we planning on doing? We have social media, including Cohasset 143, and we have possibility of doing 143 TV, and what else? We'll have letters in the Mariner. Of course, it's not going to be called the Mariner anymore. Let's see. Maybe we'll put an insert in the water bill again. You know, there's all sorts of ideas. So, and of course, we have the website and all the materials that associate with the website. So, anyway,
Okay, so we're ready to go as soon
We're
as
ready.
it's time.
we're
And
chomping at the bit.
okay, and in the meantime, we keep doing whatever we can do.
Right.
Good. I thought the article in Life on the Rocks was excellent. And I continue to get feedback, positive feedback from people who, in some cases, feel very heartened that there were so many things on the local level that we were doing to address climate change. So I think it's gone.
I want to give
over
a
very
shout
well.
out that also there was an article about Faisal in there, which I thought was fantastic.
Saw that.
I love it too. It was awesome. Okay, good. Any questions for Steve? All right, hearing none. Josh, talk to us, and obviously any thoughts you have on social media can be applied specifically to community aggregation. But I think that the general topic is about the AEC using social media more generally to help achieve our objectives.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I don't, little preface this, I don't consider myself a social media expert. I don't even have a Facebook account, but I did at one point, and I do have other, I have Instagram and LinkedIn, but so today we're just going to talk about why is it important to our mission? How can we help, drive consensus in town? How do we administer it? What can we do on social media to drive community engagement? What additional benefits would it give us that the current channels do not? Where these are all the different ones that I'm aware of, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Twitter. I guess, and finally, who are we trying to target with our message? So why? So obviously our goal is to promote energy efficiencies and rural energy, provides us a free capability to promote the challenges we're facing in our society and locally, but also the initiatives we're undertaking, like community aggregation, and highlight the benefits from just a personal household level and a municipal level on what this transition to carbon, from reducing carbon-based emissions looks like. And I just said, why, I went to coasset.org, and you can see like how many times it's been viewed, and it's it's obviously not getting a lot of traffic, and maybe having another place where we meet them with our message. Like basically what we'd have to do is create a site, go out and connect with a bunch of people in town, hopefully in town, and maybe like-minded organizations, but people aren't going to be necessarily looking for the AEC content. We're going to meet them with it. If you create content, and if people start liking it and looking at it, then the algorithm starts to send it to more people. So, it would take some work to get the community started, but as you can see at the bottom there, 69% of people in this from 2018 use social media. So, and it's actually probably concerning how much time people spend on social media. But the point is, if we put out things that are locally interesting, maybe they're concerning, but at least we're going to start building that community. So when it comes time to promote, something that we're doing, people are gonna see it. Yeah, and just basically we could post stories, we could post short videos, and I was thinking, there is that one solar company in town. I don't know if anybody is aware of them or knows anything about them, but Red Solar, I just saw the little sign. I looked them up. They do more like water, thermal kind of water heating for pools. It seems like that's what their specialty is, but maybe a quick interview with them. Like, what are they doing? What kind of returns, or return on investment people are seeing from that? Just some short videos that get across the benefit that alternative energies can provide them. And yeah, I kind of went through some of this, but they put it at the bottom: guilt, FOMO, fear of missing out, risk, politics are all great drivers of action. So, I mean, we don't have to be that. I mean, what we're talking about is very serious, obviously. So, I don't want to, I'm not trying to create a panic to create likes, but, I think people need to understand, what is going on locally, if maybe the student research, classes, student research, or seeing things in the acidity in the water or whatever it is. But I think, there's some interesting stories that we could tell on a social media site, and, really promote some of the things that we're doing. All right, so what channels are right for our message? Well, Facebook, most widely used. 7 out of 10 have an account. Problem is, it's contentious space occupied by bots and alternative facts. Instagram, key demographics, younger, more visually aesthetic. So, I mean, you know, we could just even, you know, you're posting some days, you're posting pictures of Cohasset Harbor, and this is, you know, this is what we're trying to protect, or, you know, just different short things that are just visually aesthetic. Twitter, yeah, you can start a revolution. You know, it's been in the news a lot. I don't personally do Twitter, but I do have an account. I don't even go on it, but some people do. I don't know if that's where we want to play, but TikTok, YouTube. I mean, YouTube could be interesting. I mean, just creating that video, the video piece of it. You can do longer videos. LinkedIn. Not exactly sure that would be a good fit either. And Pinterest, you know, look at my shiplap. So, I mean, really what I think is, you know, Facebook and Instagram are the two that would probably make the most sense for the AEC. But, you know, that's open to discussion. And then, you know, who would we target? You know, Cohasset voters. You know, we can cross the chasm from apathetic to involved. You know, we talked about just that cleanup. It was a little light. I mean, I think I don't know how many people. I don't want to even put out a number, but you know, it was light. So, you know, maybe we can get people more engaged. Yeah, they need to be sold on some of these capital projects that we're proposing. So, you know, getting their mind share and another touch point on, you know, what we're doing here. Yeah. But businesses, you know, I mean, we could connect with different businesses. They could be, you know, advocates, sponsor events, etc. And then so the cast of kids, you know, we need to, not that I don't want necessarily my kids on social media, but obviously they are. I'm sorry, I went forward a slide, but anyway, you know, grow the future leaders like Faisal that will be tasked with figuring out the solutions to the challenges we face. So next steps, you know, I propose that we establish a Facebook and Insta account. That's a joke, create a viral video, but you know, it is something that happens. I mean, people create videos that people, you know, start to like, or viral campaigns. But we'd have to decide on the administration, you know, publishing guidelines, process, and you just start building a community. And then, you know, create a list of what we're planning on doing. And I just threw out some just some quick thoughts here, right? But there's obviously a lot we could do, or there's, you know, we don't even really need to do a lot, and we could just vote every month. I mean, but obviously the more you're out there, the more people start to get engaged with your brand or organization. So that's it. Anybody have any thoughts or comments?
My question is, we kind of ran into it at Hull Light, is the open meeting laws, the regulations. You know, if one person's posting content, does everyone have to approve it?
Right.
I don't know what the issues with that are. I'm not sure of. Maybe like Michelle would know. I don't know if there's any other committees out there with a page. I'm not sure.
It's a good point. I mean, the way we could, you know, you could just, I mean, if I was to be the one that does it, I could just say, here's what I have. We're going to do one a week for the next 4 weeks. Here's what I had planned. Boom, boom, boom. What do you guys think? I don't like number 3. I don't like number 3 either. Okay, you know, get rid of it, kind of thing. I mean, we could do that.
Yeah, I don't know what, you know, just to echo what Mike said, I don't know what the restrictions are in terms of, I don't recall that coming up in terms of what we could use in terms of municipal laws. I do agree with you that Facebook and Instagram probably are the best, unless you've got a lot of YouTube video content that you're gonna be able to continue to, add on to that and make it something that people want to go to. There's also the opportunity for us to be posting, information on just certain things that we're doing, like community aggregation on Cohasset 143. To begin with, we could be doing a better job of that and just, posting our agenda out there, and saying, come to the meeting, get involved. And here's what we're going to talk about this week. Where it highlights different things. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a Twitter account. And part of me refuses to get a Twitter account because it just seems like an opportunity for people to yell at each other. Because that's what I more see out of it. But I think it would be a good idea to start getting some of these initiatives out there and in the spotlight with people. So I think it's a great idea, Josh.
Pat?
I think that Pat is maybe right, and we could make better use of Cohasset 143 Facebook page. And I wonder if we can get our own page on Facebook 143. Is that something that's doable? And maybe just drive people to, or I'm not sure how that works. In any event, I think what should our strategy be to jumpstart the traffic to whatever media we decide to use? That's the hard part, I think, is to get the traffic there. Mm-hmm. And if we use Cohasset 143, we're a step up. And these other things like Cohasset 143 TV also post in Cohasset 143 Facebook. So I think maybe, I don't know, maybe would that be a viable media strategy to try to expand our Cohasset 143 postings and go from there?
Yeah, I don't think they're mutually, exclusive. I think you could do both. I mean, it's creative.
I think people that are on 143, if you have a different page and you're, it's related to Cohasset, it's going to get served up to people as, hey, you may like this. And
you can tag,
yeah,
hashtags, you can do, yeah, you could, if you did a post, so you could put like, I don't know, at Cohasset 143, and they kind of get pulled in. If they approve it, and then it kind of, you're linked to that.
Right.
Josh, I guess you've looked at the traffic to the Cohasset website.
Well, yeah, just you can see how many views when you watch something. So I've watched some of the videos, so I know.
So I would think that being a subcommittee or being a committee of the town, we'd be, I don't know, we'd probably get less, you would think we'd get less traffic than the entire town site. So that makes me wonder.
But it's less about the, I guess that's the difference between going to a site and going to social media. When people go to social media, they're going to see how many likes their new post got, but they just got hit with, a microgrid video that we put up. You know what I mean? They're not necessarily expecting to see what we're going to post.
Okay.
But whether they look at it.
Yeah. Josh, did you talk to anybody within town, like Michelle at town staff or the IT folks, to see if there's a town policy with respect to what the committees can do?
I have not. That's why, next steps, we got to decide on the administrative publishing guidelines. I don't know. Maybe Corey might know something here.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd recommend, I think, to balance the obviously when you're posting as an official XYZ, you know, the bar is raised, and I don't think there's any expectation that that would go awry. But what I would recommend is just a general strategy for stuff. And then maybe a subcommittee, 1 or 2 people that could then report back. One thing I want to mention to you guys, and you know, I sit on lots of meetings, lots of things. Your committee is uniquely active in that you guys, you know, are the only committee that can go out and get ideas and run with them and see where they go. And you're on the cutting edge. I mean, there's committees that are just talking about zoning and about where fences are. Like, you are probably the most exciting committee in town, and let people know that. I mean, you know, even electric buses. I mean, you know, content that you guys have builds itself. You know, once a month on Twitter, or every 2 weeks, you get a, you know, dollar figure about how much money and how many trees the solar array has posted. You know, talking about electric school buses with, you know, 1 year of this, just cool facts and information. I mean, take your passion and throw it out there. And I don't think, as long as you just kind of have a general strategy, I don't think anything you say is going to be, I mean, controversial. You're just kind of sharing your data and what you're working on. So I would just, you know, take what the passion that you have for what you're doing and try to share that. Because I know when I talk to people, I mean, you saw that with Life on the Rocks, people responded to it huge. You've been working on this for 2 years, but it gets in front of people and people are excited about it. So having a Facebook page for AEC and having a Twitter account, and just kind of small little tidbits to let people stay excited with you. And then when, Josh, I think your point about when you want to go to town and say, hey, we want to purchase, you know, we want to, you know, do a school bus or another solar array or something, people have already been prepped for the idea and they're excited about it. Mm-hmm. So that would be kind of, that's kind of wordy, I'm sorry, but that'd be kind of my recommendation for how you go forward, is just build a communication strategy, approve it as a group, and then just, you know, attack and share and have fun.
Cool, thanks.
So Corey, on that, is there a town policy with respect to what committees can do on social media? Because we're not supposed to be an advocate, but as you pointed out, we have a lot of facts and tidbits and information that we can share about what's happening with things we've already done and what's happening with things that we're going to be doing going forward. So I want to make sure we don't, as an appointed committee of the select board that has quarterly reports, to make sure we are doing what we need to be doing. I want to make sure we get whatever, that we operate within the appropriate guidelines. But I do agree, an actual plan that identifies what we're going to post when is, and there can be a miscellaneous category as information comes due within our, you know, as information arrives. But I want to make sure we have proper authority to go forward with our own Facebook page.
It's a gray area, and you know, it certainly is, but and I'll have conversations with the town manager just to see if there's any you know, hot button things. I think if there's a strategy, as opposed to like approving individual posts, but like just a general strategy of what you're going to do. I mean, these meetings are record. You guys are producing material, you know, so even if you were just to screenshot something that was in a public meeting, that really is an advocacy. That's just reporting on what you're doing as a committee anyway. So if you think about the social media as a way to enhance the public record, I think that gives you a good guideline to figure out how you should operate. Because I mean, the Facebook post shouldn't be going on its own, you know, advocating for things. But if it's something that's already in the group, you're already doing it, then it's not really creation. It's repetition of stuff that's already public record. And I think that'll give you kind of the safe guidelines to follow. Okay,
so that's good. I think that's good. But it sounds like a formal plan is definitely the guidelines, and the process and administration would be next steps.
Yeah, just so that, I mean, I think it'd be nice to get the committee to say, yes, you know, we approve, you know, we like the bi-weekly updates on this. We want to throw something on about this, you know, we want to, you know, just a pretty broad, but just at least everyone's got the rules of engagement kind of pretty clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. And, you know, the nice thing is we do have a ton of content. We can report once a month on the solar, how much we've been saving on solar. We can report what's going on with the charging stations, identify where they are. We've got presentations that we could, you know, take screenshots of some of the key charts, say picture of the week, or or whatever, just to talk about that, as well as some of the updates, reporting on what's going on with our meetings.
And that,
Yeah, I
like,
think even like when during a meeting, when a meeting's going on, we could say, hey, let's post this on the, the Facebook or Instagram.
Yep.
And then whether we take a quick vote or just all agree to it, I think that would be productive, so that, following the meeting, there's 3 or 4 things that can be posted within the next couple weeks.
Yeah. The nice thing is I don't think the content is lacking. As Corey points out.
even that like heat pump thing. I mean, one thing, I've got heat pumps in my house as well as a gas fired furnace. And, where's the split? The natural gas prices are through the roof and my heat pump is efficient and sitting there. So, that's kind of the data that you guys know instinctively that you could share.
Yeah. There's also ISO New England data, which is really cool, very graphical about what's happening with electricity prices during the coldest days. The National Grid outage maps that we can just screenshot and, again, public record, just to let people be more aware.
Yeah, the only thing, we're just gonna we'll have to talk about too, is like trolls. If you're on Facebook, there will be trolls, especially if we're talking.
Just don't reply. That would be my
Oh
recommendation.
yeah, no, exactly.
Well, basically, I mean, I always say,
I don't know, whatever.
well, if you control the message, you control the thing, and then replying never, I mean, that never gets anybody anywhere, right? Engaging
Exactly.
with the troll never. So just, if somebody says something, you just let it sit there. That's their own prerogative. And if other individuals want to come to the defense of whatever you're posting, fine. But I'd recommend just moving on to the next post and not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
I haven't noticed trolls being a problem on Facebook 143.
Are you serious?
You're
Come
on
on,
a different one for Steve.
You have a different
I've been on
143.
Facebook in like a long time, but when I was on 143 was there was no love. They call it, at 143. I could think of a better name for it, but it was a lot of mudslinging. But it was during the election, so maybe that was a different time. That's kind of why I dropped off. But yes, it was pretty ugly.
All right.
I guess
Okay.
I only go to class 143 when I see a link there's somebody, some nice picture or whatever.
Yeah.
That's mainly.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why, we could do, pictures of solar houses in Cohasset as like fillers in between more substantial posts. I don't know. We can talk about it, but
All right.
I think it's
Okay.
great.
So
Thank you.
Josh, this is great. Thank you for the presentation and the thoughts. Anything else for Josh? But I think these next steps, especially a marketing plan, about how a social media marketing plan would be great. And next steps also, Corey, if you can make sure we're not running afoul of any town policy.
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay, great. But we appreciate your enthusiasm and your liaison. Okay, moving on to microgrids and the brick grant. This is very quick because there's no real update. We're not going to hear until midsummer. And I guess by July 1st, we might hear if we've moved on to the next round, like if we're in the running or if we've been rejected outright. And there's a risk we could be rejected outright just based on the benefit cost analysis. We calculated a benefit cost ratio of 1.15, but this is not a standard benefit cost analysis. So there were all sorts of moving parts and different pieces, and somebody very sophisticated within FEMA will be reviewing that. So we'll have some more insight in 2 months about where we stand on that. But the other piece of that is I did talk to Mass CEC. If you recall, there was a phase 1 study for $1 million. I talked to National Grid to understand more about why their piece is $750,000 and that shouldn't be covered in rates. And I got some nice feedback. We discussed this last time about what National Grid is allowed to do versus not allowed to do, which I'll discuss again. And then the other, I spoke to Mass CEC about potentially giving us funding to help mitigate some of the share of the town on that first $1 million piece if it does proceed. And Mass CEC was very open to that. They thought they could definitely help fund part of the study with state money, and that would count as non-federal money, which would mean that the town could be on the hook for only $50,000 to $75,000. That was what I told them our target was, to try to get it down to that, because that just seems more manageable from a town risk perspective. So that's good news if we do get the FEMA, but all of this depends on FEMA wanting to embrace this project and move forward with it. And we won't know that until July. And then we won't know if we're one of the finalists until later in the summer. So that's where we are on that. I guess let me just quickly elaborate on the National Grid. So National Grid, when they make investments, and this is something, Corey, we're going to have to share with the select board because it's a question that comes up repeatedly. When National Grid is a regulated utility, and as a regulated utility, they can only do things that they're allowed to do, that they're going to get rate recovery in. And otherwise it has to come out of the shareholder's pocket, and all there might be some reasons why they might want to do that. Generally, as a regulated utility, they're going to only be able to do what the regulator allows them to do. Right now, the metrics for whether or not they should make an investment in a system are very archaic, and they're tied to the number of outages, and they have certain standards that need to be met. And I think Mike is very familiar with this. It's why Hull is suing them for poor feeder reliability. And if a metric falls below some of the standard metrics that are established, then that can justify an investment. One of those metrics is not resiliency. So the amount of time that somebody has an outage is not a basis for them to make an investment, believe it or not. Their investments are based on how much load is on the feeder line, and which, by the way, in the next 2 to 3 years, they indicated our primary feeder, which runs through Wampatuck Park, is going to be at capacity and start to be overloaded. So they're going to have to make some investments. But some of the things that would justify a microgrid, that's just not in their metrics, and therefore they don't pay attention to them, and they can't justify an investment tied to that. If a town like Cohasset wants to pursue something along those lines to address those issues, we can, but the cost is on us. And that ties to fairness to other towns, that if they want to pursue something that's outside of the regulated metrics, the cost would be on them. So that is why in the FEMA grant, in the microgrid, the town would be on the hook for our 25% share, even though arguably this is something that a utility should be doing. So I felt like that was insightful. That said, I don't know if you've noticed the bucket trucks that have been trimming trees around Cohasset. There have been a number of investments that National Grid has made, a number of investments that they're planning to make in the next 3 to 5 years, but don't hold them to it, tied to the fact that we've been working with them. And I do have a list of that that I'm going to compile and present. I can present that at the next meeting. And most certainly we would present it to the select board, just to show the select board that the work we've been doing with National Grid has been benefiting the town, regardless of whether or not a microgrid goes forward. So that's the good news, that the effort is paying off. We are getting attention. We are highlighting our problems. They are thinking through potential solutions. But as far as, why aren't they doing a better job to help minimize the amount of outage days we have? It all ties to what are the metrics against which they're being measured, and whether or not it justifies the investment according to those metrics.
On a quick question. And I did see all the trucks coming down the street, and they were on my street, and I was very glad to see them cutting branches. So that's great. in terms of, doing stuff with tree wire, is that something that the town has to pay for? Or does that come under the resiliency as well? Or is that something that they might be willing to do?
Yes, so that's a good question. They did provide me, and I'm going to see if I have it. Let's see, because I can pull it up and then we can put it into the meeting minutes, because I think this would be very helpful. I did ask for a map identifying where we have bare wire versus tree wire. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up just so that we can see. Interestingly enough, I also asked them for information on when they last pruned the trees. And so we got that too, but we can see that there's a lot of pruning going on in 2022. Let me see, I'm trying to pull up this map real time. I should have had that. Well, let me show the okay. So they do have a tree trimming schedule. I'm going to pull up what I have for that just so that you can see it. And then I'm going to try to find the tree wire map. The nice thing about the tree wire map is it shows the microgrid is very much focused on where we don't have tree wire. So that is part of the benefit. In their metrics, just so you know, the tree wire obviously is more expensive. It also decreases the capacity of the line. So there's 2 expenses associated with the tree wire. And as a result, they take into account both of those when they're looking at the costs, and the benefits have to tie to their metrics. And they would claim that the reason why they haven't converted to tree wire is because it hasn't been justified according to their regulated. I can't share my screen because Michelle did not give me that power. Okay. I will, we'll just, since we're talking about it, I'll distribute it as part of the meeting minutes, but I'll include both the tree wires, where the tree wires are versus the bare wires.
You're
And
the host now, Tanya.
oh, I am. Were you the host, Josh?
Yes, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Okay. Okay, so Corey, this is a perfect map about the value that the Alternative Energy Committee is bringing to this town. So this is a map of the town's distribution system. Can everybody see that? Okay, so this is when it was last pruned by color. So if it's blue, light blue was pruned in 2019. If it was purple, it was 2021, which I really don't see any purple. If it's orange, it's 2022. So as you can see, we've had a ton of pruning going on in the town. And they would say this is part of our normal pruning schedule, but I'm not sure that that's true, because that looks a little bit
A little behind. They're supposed to prune on a 5-year schedule. And I'd say Forest Ave, I mean, it maybe 10, 15 years since it was last pruned.
yeah. So they say they have a 5-year schedule. They also are pruning the feeder lines. Clearly a significant amount of pruning has happened. Now, I will say there's 3 levels of pruning that they do. Mike can probably explain this better. One is just sort of light pruning to get the branches off of the lines. Another's a more aggressive trimming to really pull the branches back away from the lines. And then the third is basically a clear to sky, clear the ground to the sky by taking down trees. And especially the dead ones, but even, you know, some of the ones that have crept into the zone where they shouldn't be. The microgrid proposal included the second level of trimming, and that's not part of their normal 5-year plan. So their 5-year plan does the light trimming, and it just continues to be horrendous. As much work as they have been doing, there continues to be some pretty significant areas where there's no tree trimming, but All of that said, there is a lot of tree trimming that is occurring in 2022, but it is not at the level of aggressive tree trimming that was included in the microgrid proposal to help create a more robust backbone. I also want to note that because of the pruning they are doing, this is probably going to decrease the benefits of the microgrid proposal, at least in the early years, because we no longer will get the benefit of the full benefit of the tree trimming under the proposal, but we'll wait and see on what that looks like.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with what they've trimmed so far. They have been pretty aggressive. They've done Cohasset, Situate, and Norwell. So basically all the circuits that are on the edge of being penalized. And I mean, they face some pretty severe consequences if they hit those Katy and Sadie penalty circuits. So I think the intent of all this trimming was to avoid those penalties. So it's, you know, it stinks that we've had to go through the outage, but it's finally pushing their hand and having to do something.
Right. I think it is going to help, but it still doesn't help the upstream issues, which is what a microgrid would address. And it's, you know, I'm happy that our effort has helped to motivate this. In my mind, I think I'm pretty 100% positive it has helped motivate this, because we've highlighted how bad it is. But on the other hand, you know, it's only a partial solution. Okay, and then I'm going to also quickly see if I can find the tree, I'm going to quickly see if I can find the bare wire versus the tree wire. Oh, I got it. Okay. So let me come back here. I think I'm going to have to shut down, stop sharing, and then start sharing again so you can see the tree wire map. Okay, so can everybody see this map? The green is bare wire. And then the pink, for example, here is tree wire. And then the orange is a polyethylene. But what you can see, if you think about our microgrid, that was set up to cover basically this rectangle right here in the middle of town. And so you can see a lot of the benefits of the tree wire runs along King Street and down Sawyer Street and North Main Street. Not coincidentally, these areas that do not have tree wire tend to be the ones that have the highest outages and the longest duration of the outage. So the highest number of outages and the longest duration. So the nice thing is we can see from this map, we are covering the inner part of the town. We may, as part, if we get the FEMA grant, we may want to look at a North Main Street extension. This is a very bad street, so we could get some very significant benefits from putting tree wire on. The problem is it's pretty sizable, but that tree wire would take us to the MBTA if we ever get carports, solar carports built there. And then the other thing is, if you're looking here, what you can see is where Crocker Lane is right here. This is Avalon is here. Crocker Lane is this green bare wire. This is a pretty weak part of the system, but it may be the best place to put electric buses. And Corey, I don't know if you want to talk about that when we talk about the electric buses, but you know, this is nice. We've never had this map before. We now know where there's bare wire versus tree wire versus polyethylene. And most certainly what you can see is there's some pretty important parts of town that have bare wire.
I have a quick question, and this is totally selfish, but I'm looking at my street and the whole thing's green except for two little spots of tree wire. Why would that happen? Is that because the wire was taken down, and when they put up a new wire, they put up tree wire?
Mike,
That's
do you
possible.
know?
I see a bunch of mistakes with this map. I don't think the data is any good. I'll drive it out and kind of make some observations, but yeah, I see a lot of issues with the map just looking at it quick. The whole section going down 3A, they really don't do, that's a 4 kV step down area. So it's 4,000 volts instead of 13.8. They don't do covered or tree wire on a 4 kV section. So that's why. And then if we try to do electric buses in that 4 kV step down area, the whole area is going to have to be upgraded to 13.8. They won't allow power to go back up through step downs transformers. So that's
So
the issue.
that's good to know. And when we talk about the electric buses, we'll talk about that in more detail.
Okay.
But I am not, they do not guarantee that this map is accurate.
Yeah, I'll take a ride and just jot down some notes on it next couple of weeks.
Okay, we can do a corrected map. How about that?
Yeah.
Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
You and Steve should do this. Steve likes doing those little drives
Yeah.
and looking
Yeah,
around and
I'll
saying,
split
okay.
it up with him and we'll cover the whole thing.
All right, yeah, perfect. So that's an action item for Debbie,
got
who'll
it.
be listening in. Action item for if Steve Girardi will do it, and Mike to take the lead on driving around and correcting this map as we need to have an accurate representation of what type of wire we have in town.
Yeah, if you could just, I don't know if you can email it to me or if is this
Yeah.
PowerPoint or PDF? Yeah,
I can, for sure.
great.
For sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so the nice thing is, again, by working with National Grid in a very collaborative way, we're getting a lot of information. We probably know more about our system than most towns that are serviced by National Grid. And this is helpful as we start to continue to understand what the problem is. Okay, so that's it on the microgrid and the brick grant. Any questions? That was long for something that didn't have much of an update. Okay. All right. Next is update on initiatives. So electric school bus demonstration project, quick update on this. I spoke to National Grid today and asked them for a map showing us exactly what Mike was talking about. Where in town could we put up to 10 school buses on a vehicle to grid basis, on a demand response basis? We have, as you know, we've been receiving bids from NLX for a demonstration project. The price is now down to a price that is lower than the current lease when fuel is taken into account. So it's a very favorable offer for the demonstration project. NLX was able to get there by maximizing grants and eliminating any profit that they would make. So it is at cost for them. And this is because they want to do this project. The next steps on the demonstration project for one electric school bus, which would go live around September of 2023. And that is when the current leases expire. What we need for next steps is a signature on a letter of intent and a modified non-disclosure agreement to NLX. And then they will provide us with 4 different proposals. One for a 5-year lease, no ownership, which they anticipate will be the lowest cost option. The next would be a 7-year lease with no ownership at the end, a 7-year lease with ownership at the end, and these buses usually have a 10-year warranty, and a management only bid, so that if the town were to buy the bus, they would still manage it, manage the charging and pay for the electricity. But the town could own the bus. That may make sense if the town's cost of capital is significantly lower than NLX's cost of capital. But we need to move quickly because as interest rates go up, obviously the financing costs go up. And this is a capital expenditure. So right now we have an offer that's very favorable. We just need a letter of intent and modified NDA signed by the town. And we've got National Grid lined up to give us a map showing us where we could put one school bus, up to 10 school buses, so that we have identified, so that we will be able to identify exactly what Mike's talking about, that there are parts of the town system that cannot host 10 buses. And I think we're trying to get this done by July 1st.
So is the goal to effectively have all of those buses in one place? When you're saying to host them, does that mean that you want to have all the charging at one location and go from there rather than trying to have them in different parts of the town?
So for the demonstration project, it doesn't matter because we'd be using either a fast charge or a level 2 charge. And if at the end of the day, there was another place where all the buses were to park, that would be fine. What I've learned, first of all, where the buses park is a very contentious issue that hasn't been resolved. The schools right now are paying $42,000 a year to lease a space for the buses to park. The buses used to park at the DPW station, and then they built a building and the buses didn't have any space to park. The other aspect of the parking, which I didn't appreciate until we had further conversations, was parking buses is not just about parking buses. It's about also having a spot for the drivers who drive the buses to park. You have to have a building that has a bathroom for the bus drivers to use, and preferably also a meeting space. So if there's a route that's changed or a tree's down or something's changing, the bus drivers can congregate and discuss that in the morning as a briefing and maybe even a debriefing at the end. So this is something that the schools in the town have been working on, but there's no resolution. And as I said, it creates some bad feelings. But I look at the electric buses as a way to address it and think about it. For the demonstration project, it doesn't matter. We're getting the charging station for free from NLX as part of the lease, and it will be installed for free from National Grid as part of a program that they have for clean transportation. So there's no cost to the town to just put one up someplace. So let's find a place to put that one demonstration project and start getting the data and understand if we want to do it. But over time, I think it's pretty obvious that the state is using infrastructure bill money for electric school buses, and they want the towns to convert. And that grant money is going to be available to the town starting this summer as part of a separate grant program. And the goal would be, as part of the Massachusetts goals, to electrify and decarbonize school buses by 2030. So I think we should plan on having a full fleet of electric buses by 2030. Beverly already has a demonstration project underway, so this is not, we're not the first mover, but we're in the front of the pack, and I think that puts us in a good position. So given all of that, these are just, it's another consideration for the school and the town as they think about where do we put school buses. But that was a good question, Pat. Any other questions? Okay, so Corey's been great. He's going to help us get that signed letter of intent and NDA so we can move forward. And then the next steps would be review the proposals internally, talk to capital planning, who's been a part of the conversations from the beginning. I think they support this as a means of understanding what an electric school bus will do and get the data directly as part of a demonstration project. And the school committee seems to be on board. And I think we're working with the school business center to try to help them get comfortable with the potential. I mean, let's be honest, having one electric bus creates a bit of a logistics issue because it's different than the other buses, but the drivers need like a 2-day training session. I mean, it's all doable. It's all doable. It's just a question of will and desire. But we're very pleased with where NLX has come out on this. So hopefully we'll have our first electric school bus by a year from September. But there's a lot of steps we have to do to get there. Okay, solar energy RFP, nothing to report there, although I did run into Gordon Dean at Ecofest, and he said that they have finished negotiating with Stasco on the roof of the new building in the Stop and Shop Plaza, and they are looking to put together a potential proposal for the town who would be able to buy the solar energy off of the rooftop solar on a third-party site. They keep telling us to be patient, and so I don't have a lot of it, but I am trying to be patient. And we have the water, the sewer commission have said if they can get, for example, a 10% or more savings, they would be happy to be the off-taker of that solar. So the third-party sites are where we're focused, and we have our potential first third-party site with Palmer Capital, who is local and trusted counterparty.
Tanya, just a
Yes.
question out of curiosity. Did Gordon say anything about the inverter problems at the landfill solar array?
Yes, because I ask him about those all the time too. Those inverter problems are still happening and everybody's pointing the finger at everybody else. So National Grid is saying it's not their system issue and the inverters are saying it's not their issue. And of course, Palmer Capital is saying it's not their issue. So the inverter issue continues to be an issue. However, it basically is just forcing them to replace inverters, and those are being replaced under warranty. But the inverter company is starting to get upset because they've now replaced the inverter multiple times and they're trying to get a solution. So my understanding is there's still no solution. It's still a problem and nobody has figured out what the problem is. Okay, community solar. Nothing to report there. That continues to be on the back burner. Sustainability and net zero goals. I think on that one, Michelle is moving forward. We did receive permission from the select board to move forward with the grant that would hire a third party to help us do a greenhouse gas inventory. And Michelle is moving forward with trying to exercise that grant, finalize that grant and exercise it.
And I did ask her if she has another call, that if I can be on it. And just, I did go out, I think we talked a couple meetings ago about getting climate action plans of different communities, and I've gathered 6 so far, and I'm waiting for Hingham's.
Hingham will not have a climate action plan for a year.
Oh, well, I won't wait for theirs then.
No, you know what? I will send you. So I think I've mentioned that my consulting company was hired by Hingham to do their climate action plan. So we have been going through the process through the public meetings, and it's been very useful, informative. And Hingham Municipal Light Plant and the Hingham Capital Climate Action Plan both had a table at the Ecofest. Right next to the Alternative Energy Committee. So there's just a lot of lessons that are being learned, but I will send a list with links to everybody, and we'll include it in the minutes of the climate action plans that have been done by municipalities. And just so you know, there were 2 waves. One was a wave in the mid-aughts, like 2006, 7, 8. Maybe 9, 10, 8, 9, 10, where communities were doing climate action plans. And then now there's another round, it seems, of communities that are interested in doing climate action plans. So I'll send you the list of those with links if anybody wants to take a look at what's there. And I'll also give a link to a presentation that Inner just made to the Hingham Climate Action Plan Committee that includes information about what's in those climate action plans. So we did a survey of what is included in the different sections. And it basically comes down to electricity or energy, electricity, heating, transportation, and waste, reducing, reusing, and recycling to decrease the amount that's in the landfill, which creates methane emissions, even if it gets sent out someplace else. So those are sort of the 4 categories, but I'll give a link that should be posted on the Hingham Climate Action Plan site, just so that we can keep apprised of what's happening in that community tied to sustainability and net zero goals.
And we also have
Tanya?
a, oh, go ahead, Steve.
I just want to ask Tanya if Hingham's still planning on hiring a sustainability director. I know
Yes.
Brianna is a sustainability director for Hingham Light Board, but Hingham was going to hire a new one, right? For the whole.
Yes, and that was passed in their budget, which was then approved at
And-
town meeting.
And would you eventually be working with this person in developing the climate action plan for Hingham? I would assume.
So they would implement, I think the sustainability director would implement the climate action plan, which is beyond the scope of our project with Hingham. The Hingham created, as part of the town meeting that voted to approve net zero by 2040, they also established a climate action plan committee to develop the climate action plan. And then the climate action plan is a roadmap that would then be implemented by the town. And I think the director of sustainability would be the key driver to do the
Okay.
implementation.
But the plan would already be developed in place when the sustainability director came on board. That's kind of the idea.
Well, I think the sustainability director is probably not going to come on board for another 6 months, 6 to 9 months. And so at that point, the climate action plan for Hingham will be very far along. A draft is due by December, and September has to have an outline of what's going to be included. So with some of the key recommendations, and there will have been plenty of public meetings, and there is a survey, electronic survey that has already gone out and is going to be publicized further. So a lot of the work will already be done by the time the director of sustainability or the sustainability director comes on board.
That's going to be shared with Cohasset, right? The director.
I don't know if Corey has any update on that, but my understanding was conceptually, and I don't know if it's in the budget that was approved at town meeting, that Cohasset was looking to share that director of sustainability.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a 2/3, 1/3. Cost has got 1/3, and I think the town manager requested us to use some ARPA funding for the 1/3 for this year, I believe.
Sorry to use
But
what?
no, but then sorry, then the state funded it, so we're good. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's this right now. It's being funded. Our 1/3 is being funded through the state. Sorry, I'm sweaty. I'm doing some housework here. So
Good. Excellent. So we'll have, will that person then, Corey, be liaising with us, or what's the functionality of that person, do you think?
I would imagine so. I haven't dived, whatever, 8:44. We'll go with Dovin into that much yet. So
Okay,
I'll get back to you.
all right, good. Well, we'll just keep us apprised, and it'd be good to have that person work with us on some implementation. Okay, anything else on sustainability net zero goals? All right, town hall renovation. Do we have an update on that?
I do not.
Okay. And then on the data reports, so I did not get an update. I did not get an update from Palmer Capital on the solar energy array. We don't have Brianna to give us our update on the electric vehicle charging, and the gas-fired backup generators are still in process of being analyzed. But I guess with Brianna no longer here, is there someone who could take the lead on getting the solar energy array data from Palmer Capital and the electric vehicle charging data? I just would hate to see that disappear with Brianna.
Is it like a charge point app that you log into or website?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to do it.
Okay, perfect. So Mike, would you reach out to Brianna just to get the details on that?
Sure.
Okay. So for the charge point data, and then I'll also, Mike, send you, just so you can be the data guru, I'll send you the contact information for Palmer Capital. Scott Kaplan is the one who usually gives me the updated spreadsheet that shows the town's savings. And we should be getting that
Okay.
monthly anyway, just so that we've got something for our social media to report on.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, and then the action item for me is to finish the gas-fired backup generator data. All right, any other questions on data? Thank you, Mike, for volunteering to do that. That is great. Okay, matters not reasonably known in advance. Anything? Okay, is there any, this is just for the future, is there any speakers that we would like to hear from going forward? As you know, we had quite a robust speaker series as part of the Alternative Energy Committee meetings. And even though it extended our meetings an hour, I think they were quite useful. Is there anything people would like to learn more about or hear about with respect to potential speakers?
Well, I'd like to, occasionally catch up with Hingham on their climate action plan and what's going on there. I don't know who's appropriate, if it's Laura Burns or one of their folks, just to get sort of a status of where they're going. And certainly once they start talking about hiring the sustainability director, I think it would be great to hear a little bit more about how that person, what their role is going to be and how we would interact with them.
Okay, I think that's great. Let me ask Brad, action item for me to ask Brad Moyer, who is the chair of the Climate Action Plan Committee, if he or somebody from their committee could give us an update on what they're doing.
And I think the other thing is, you mentioned in one of the emails you sent that the town would maybe be looking at additional vehicles beyond buses potentially, to see if that was, in the cards for, doing an additional electric fleet. So I don't know if there's any speakers that might be, I don't know enough about the industry to know who we would tap, but that would be interesting. I think one point I sent an article about the fire truck that, I don't know where it was, Michigan or something like that, that they did their electric fire trucks. So that might be an interesting topic to learn about.
Okay, that's a good idea. So that definitely is an update tied to the conversation I had today with Sejal Shah from National Grid. She is responsible for the electrification, the National Grid support associated with electrification of transportation. And what she spearheads is a no-cost assessment of electric fleet or of fleets. So they at no cost, National Grid will do a fleet assessment. So they would look at the entire fleet of Cohasset, understand what the fleet looks like, how it's used, and they do it with ICF, who is a large consulting company. ICF basically does the analysis and then gives a report at the end with recommendations about what would be beneficial and cost effective for conversion to electric. And based on the conversation today, what you're referencing, Pat, because I copied you as the vice chair, the update that I provided to Chris Senior and Michelle, and I think I copied you, Corey. That fleet assessment is something that National Grid has offered to do. It's just a question of, does the town want to have the data and do we want them to do it? And I think if we move ahead with that, that would definitely be something interesting to have the ICF team present their findings.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Just a question here. Doesn't the Green Communities Act still require that any replacement vehicles be electric vehicles?
I think there were some carve outs, and I think that, like, for example, I think we carved out some of the police emergency response vehicles. So the Green Communities Act does have a conversion piece, but I think there were some carve outs that don't mandate the conversion. And we don't have the basis for knowing the cost and the benefits as well. So this will help get us information, and then we can use that report to go and get grants to help continue with the conversions.
Thank you.
Before we close, sorry, it's on another topic, but Steve, I just was reminded of you raising the fact that some of the EV chargers in town may not be working. Does anyone know to whom we address that issue? Like if they're not operating?
Yeah, in particular, I noticed the one at Town Hall is not working.
Because that certainly reduces people's confidence. You know, I think it's important that those things are up and running. So I think it would, I mean, I'm happy to make some phone calls if anybody knows where to start. I guess I can call the town. I'm not sure who's responsible for maintaining those.
Yep, you know, Pat, if you could call Michelle and find out who owns those, who's responsible for them. She was responsible for the grant.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give her a ring.
That'd be great. So good action item for Pat to understand how we can make sure that the charging stations are operating. We also, we shouldn't talk about it now because it's quite extensive, but we also have on our action item list, understanding what the town might be able to charge for the charging station, the electricity. So that's something we need to understand as well to make a recommendation to the board about whether we've already said we're now at a point where $500 a month, the town probably does want to start considering charging for the electricity that's being used at these charging stations. The question is, we're going to get back is, what do we charge? So we do have an action item to try to figure that out. So maybe Pat, as you find out who is responsible for those, you can see if they have some information on what other towns are using for charging fees associated with the charging services.
Sure.
It might be reasonable to charge whatever the cost of the town is. You know, our contract with the landfill solar was it 13 cents a kilowatt hour, or it's less than that. It's what is it?
It's 8 cents.
8 cents. 8 cents. Okay.
But there's also a distribution and transmission charge, right? That is associated with the power delivered to the charging stations. But I think let's find out what other towns are doing.
Could I make a,
Corey, yes.
I'm sorry. Just the one thing that I think has worked in other towns is, sorry, back 2 steps. If I recall the data you presented, kind of the issue is that there are a couple of vehicles that are using a lot of power. It's not like we've got, 100 vehicles all charging, at the level. It's kind of this thing, right? Where 20% to the 2080 concept or whatever. One solution would be to have just a free time limited period, which I think a lot of other towns do. 2 hours would cover like dinner or whatever, and then jump into, like I would say a higher rate, so that also to discourage. We have a parking problem in town. We don't want people to park there all day long. So if there was after 2 hours kind of a higher rate that is above cost, not to make money, but to disincentivize people from parking all day long or occupying the station all day long, I think that would work really well.
I agree. And I think that was part of what we pitched to the select board, which is aligning incentives properly and including potential penalties if people are just sitting on the charging station, not letting others charge. Because we want to definitely increase the opportunity. So Pat, if you can find out what other towns are doing with respect to the pricing and the penalties and what the options are, that would be helpful. So no good deed goes unrewarded. You've just expanded your scope, but I think this is important. And I think this is, since you're already going to be talking to Michelle about
Yeah, that's fine.
how it works, I think we can get a little bit more information once you find out who the source is.
Yep, all makes sense.
Excellent. Anything else? All right. Thank you again to everybody. Hour and a half without a speaker. I think that just goes to show how much interesting work we're doing. Congratulations again. Thank you, Corey. Congratulations again to everybody for everything that we do and the successes that we've been having. It's very exciting. I have let Corey know that both Pat and our terms are coming to an end in June. But both of us, if the town is interested, both of us would be interested in being renewed. And the empty seat, which has not been filled for a year, is also coming due. So if there's anybody people think should be on this committee, that would be very helpful and contribute. It'd be good to have their names because we need to fill that empty seat. And potentially more if they won't have us, Pat.
Right.
Okay, anything else? If not, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Pat. Second. Thank you,
Second.
Steve. Second. All right, we don't have to have discussion on this one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you again, everybody.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Hi, everybody. Night.
Have a good night.
Okay.